October 2020, 2058 to 12. 1. Choose any two of the following hadiths and A. Describe their teachings about what Muslims believe. 4. B. Explain how Muslims can put these teachings into action. 4. A. Teachings. 1. This hadith broadens the definition of charity/sadaqah by referring to some ordinary acts that do not involve spending money. Instead, they are related to utilizing the physical energies to help those in need. The Prophet promised reward of charity if Muslims make peace between fellow Muslims in a just way, help lift the luggage of a weak person, and speak kindly. Same reward is promised for Muslims who walk to the mosque for daily prayers or who remove any harmful thing from the road. Thus, the hadith teaches Muslims understand the wider meaning of charity and God's generosity, who may give unusual reward for many ordinary deeds. This also means that the acts of worship are not restricted to salat and psalm, but they extend to taking care of others. It instructs them to acknowledge God's bounty of good health by using it for the comfort of others. Another hadith mentions the reward of helping others as, whoever relieves a believer's distress of the distressful aspects of this world, God will rescue him from a difficulty of the difficulties of the hereafter. 2. This hadith states the importance of earning by lawful means and hard work. God has predestined the income of every person, but has given free will to humans to choose the mode of earning it. The Prophet urged his followers to avoid beggary, dependence on others, and earn from all lawful means without considering any type of work as menial or undesirable. He also forbade any income from gambling, usury, and bribery, as they tend to entice people to avoid any laborious efforts. They also breed a culture of greed, dishonesty, and cheating, and thus shatter the social fabric of a Muslim community. God loves those who earn by honesty and dedication, as is supported by another hadith. One who earns his livelihood by the sweat of his brow is a friend of God. 3. This hadith is about the importance of universal brotherhood of Muslims. This brotherhood was divinely designed after the Prophet's migration to Medina. Believers are a single brotherhood. 49 to 10 Al-Hujurat. This institute, the Mawaqat, unified Muslims on the basis of their common faith and erased all other marks of identity. Head and eyes are the most important body organs, as the functions of the other organs depends on these two being in good shape. If, for example, a person's head is affected, the working of all body organs will be seriously damaged. The Prophet, therefore, equated the unity of Muslims with the head/brain. Muslims can make progress only by remaining united as a single ummah. So, this hadith teaches Muslims to strengthen the communal ties instead of getting divided and disputing with each other. 4. This hadith teaches the importance of being kind and caring towards others. The Prophet established universal brotherhood or mawaqat based on common faith. According to the Quranic declaration, believers are a single brotherhood. 49:10 Al-Hujurat. This way, he ensured the prosperity of the Muslim community, in which all members treat each other in a brotherly way. The Ansar, by sharing their assets with their Muhajirin brothers, demonstrated their sense of belonging to the same community. Thus, Mawaqat began to emerge as a unique living institute and a mark of identity of communal strength of Muslims. When a believer desires the best for others in any walk of life, he believes that this would not reduce his own share of God's blessings. This type of thinking will surely strengthen a strong belief in predestination and promote the spirit of sacrifice if all members of the Muslim community develop the same faith. In fact, most of Islamic teachings revolve around sacrifice, selflessness, and negation of greed. B. 1. Muslims can fulfill their social responsibilities in a number of ways. They should hurry to help carry a heavy luggage of an elderly person on a railway station or airport. If they can afford, they should give a ride to the needy people to a mosque, school, or workplace and guide a stranger in their town to his destination. They should feed a hungry person and take initiative in extending greetings to others regardless of the social status and age of the person, as instructed by the Prophet in another hadith. Give food and greetings to those you know and those you do not know. They should speak cordially even if they are addressed in a rather harsh way, and give a good advice whenever asked for. They should remove any harmful thing from the thoroughfare, like a banana skin, a nail, or any sharp-edged objects. 2. Muslims should follow the glorious examples set by the Prophet. He used to do all chores of life himself. He would mend his shoes, patch his garments, milk his goats, though he had many wives who were always willing to serve him. He participated in building the mosque in Medina after his migration and digging the trench around the city to save it from the Allies. He never looked down upon these types of work and encouraged his followers to do the same. He didn't like beggary and instructed Muslims to work for themselves. Muslims should help the beggars, but try to eliminate the institution of beggary. They should do it in the light of a hadith that states that a prolonged state of poverty may take a believer towards paganism. 3. Muslims should share the joys and sorrows equally. They should follow the example of the Ansar of Medina who, realizing the miseries of the Muhajirin, readily accommodated them and shared all their assets with them. Muslims today should hurry to the help of fellow Muslims whenever they see them in trouble. This spirit may be demonstrated on the level of a family, province, country, or the whole Muslim world. Every year, the Hajj provides Muslims from all parts of the world a single platform to review the communal issues. Heads of Muslim states can find ways to promote fraternal ties among them. The uniformity on this occasion inculcates a strong sense of being members of one family. Muslims should avoid sectarian divide as it has been condemned in the Quran. As for those who divide their religion and break up into sects, you have no part in them in the least. 6:159 Al-Anam. Instead, they should try to iron out all differences to keep themselves as a strong and healthy body. 4. A genuine believer will follow this teaching in a variety of ways. He will respond to the needs of others and think for the material and moral welfare of others. The Prophet declared, "The best of people are those who are a source of benefit for others." If he prays for the recovery from a disease of his family members, he will do the same for others. He will shun the negative feelings of envy and jealousy on the success of his brother in faith, and will extend sincere greetings on the success of his fellows. Islam teaches Muslims about strengthening communal feelings. In modern times, many Muslim states provided refuge to the Muslims of other states afflicted by natural disasters or political disturbances. For example, the Afghan refugees migrating to Pakistan in the 1980s. Another good example is a charity organization named Medicine Sans Frontières that extends quick aid to the victims of natural disasters. 2a. Describe the method used to make a judgment by analogy, qiyas, using the Quran and Hadith. Give examples to support your answer. 10. B. Why do you think the Prophet encouraged the use of personal reasoning amongst his companions? 4. A. Qiyas is the fourth source of legal thinking. It is employed when all other sources are silent about finding a solution to a new challenging issue. Its literal meaning is measuring by comparing with some set standard or deduction by analogy or comparison. In Islamic Sharia, it refers to the ability of an individual legal expert to reach a decision by comparing a new situation, with the principles contained in the Quran and Sunnah, ASL. Its use has been approved by the Quran and Sunnah. The following verse allows Muslim men to observe justice according to their particular family requirements. Marry women of your choice, 2 or 3 or 4. But if you fear that you shall not be able to deal justly, then only 1 for 3 Al-Nisa. Now, a man himself will know whether he can do justice or not by exercising personal reasoning. Similarly, Quran allows Muslims to determine the direction of the sacred mosque while they are away from the holy city. Turn your face in the direction of the sacred mosque. Wherever you are, turn your faces in that direction. 2:144 Al-Baqarah. Now Muslims can use compass or follow the movement of the sun to face the Qibla. There are many examples to show the working out of qiyas. The Quran commands Muslims to offer Friday prayer by full devotion, O you who believe. When the call is proclaimed to prayer on Friday, hasten to the remembrance of God and leave off business. 62:9 Al-Jumu'ah. This verse/ASL does not mention non-business transactions/far, including family matters and studies. However, the illah/similarity is the fact that whether a believer is busy in a business or non-business transaction, he will miss this important congregational prayer. In view of this illah, all transactions should be postponed, and this hukm/verdict is valid for all times. The Quran/ASL prohibits use of khamr/wine, O you who believe. Intoxicants and gambling are abomination of Satan's handiwork. Shun them, so that you may prosper. 5 hours 90 minutes. Al-Ma'idah. The Prophet had already declared, every intoxicant is khamr, and khamr is haram. Later, many new drugs became popular about which the legal experts had to decide. Far. They include heroin, marijuana/chars, cocaine, cannabis/bang, etc. All these have potential to intoxicate, illah, and so they too are forbidden, hukm. There are many examples of the Prophet's permission to use qiyas in legal thinking. Hazrat Ali was the scribe of the Treaty of Hudaybiyah. The treaty stated the name of the Prophet as Muhammad, the Messenger of God. The pagan chief from Mecca asked to replace the wording, Messenger of God, with son of Abdullah, Prophet's family name. When the Prophet asked Hazrat Ali to do so, he respectfully refused by saying that he did not have the courage to erase the wording, Messenger of God. The Prophet did not object to Hazrat Ali's refusal, as he had identified the nobility and wisdom of his refusal. Thus, by way of Hazrat Ali, the Prophet allowed his followers to exercise their opinions in such cases. There are events from the Prophet's life that provide guidance about using qiyas. The Prophet demonstrated complete method of wudu, in which all washing acts need to be thorough and complete. Once the Prophet noticed some particles of dried flour on the nails of Hazrat Aisha after she had performed wudu. The Prophet reminded her to perform wudu again after removing the dried flour from her nails. In the light of this ASL, the far of nail polishes will be resolved by removing nail polish before doing wudu. His companions resolved many new problems about which the primary sources are silent. The Prophet had prescribed the punishment of 40 lashes for the crime of drinking/ASL. Hazrat Umar sought Hazrat Ali's opinion in this regard in view of growing cases of drinking/far. Hazrat Ali said, we think that you flog him 80 times because when he drinks, he becomes intoxicated, and in that state he talks confusedly, and when he talks confusedly, he lies. Hazrat Ali had based his suggestion by finding the illah of committing slander, falsely accusing of an innocent woman of adultery, by a drunken person, and for that the Quranic punishment is 80 lashes. Hazrat Abu Bakr's election is another example of qiyas. The Prophet had appointed him as leader of daily prayer during the last days of his life, ASL. After the Prophet's demise, the question arose about his successorship, far. Majority of companions found the illah of Hazrat Abu Bakr's eligibility to lead the Muslim community in the mosque or in general, and thus he was elected as the first caliph. B. The Quranic teachings are best explained by the Sunnah/Ahadith. The Prophet knew that after his demise there would be new issues facing his followers in the coming ages. He, therefore, trained his companions for this. The Quran itself instructs Muslims to ponder and reflect upon various phenomena in several verses. Those who listen to what is said and follow the best of it, they are the ones rightly guided by God, and these are truly the people of reason. 39:18 Al-Zumar. The Prophet allowed Hazrat Muadh bin Jabal to cope with new challenges with his own wisdom while guiding the people of Yemen, hundreds of miles from Medina. Thus his companions would become a source of guidance for legal experts of coming generations. The Prophet thus set examples of use of reasoning for his companions, who in turn became a source of guidance for the future legal experts. 3a. Give an account of the administration of the Caliphate under Uthman. 10. B. In your opinion, what was Uthman's greatest achievement as caliph? 4. ANS. A. Hazrat Uthman improved upon the administrative system built by Caliph Umar. He began to tighten the central government's control over the affairs of the garrison cities/military districts. He continued Caliph Umar's policy of division of the empire and appointment of the governors. The Majlis-i-Shura remained the main advisory council to make important decisions. He had to split up the authority of the provincial governors as their number increased due to the expansion of the Muslim empire. He also reformed the police department due to a tremendous increase in population. He introduced the tradition of inspecting the state accounts, salary rolls of the Diwan, and ensured the flow of surplus revenue from provincial governments to the central treasury in Medina. A new post of financial administrators was created who were responsible only for revenue collection. Along with this, the Secretariat of Finance was also created. Hazrat Uthman appointed his cousin Marwan bin al-Hakam its in charge. As a result, the tax collection increased, and Hazrat Uthman increased the allowances paid to the people by 25%. The recipients of annual stipends were also given an increment of 100 dirhams. The inspectors of markets were assigned the task of supervising the ever-growing markets of Mecca and Medina. Many new markets were built and rented out. The rent money was distributed among the poor. He also issued gold and silver coins and added inscription of Bismillah in the name of God on them. With the availability of plenty of funds, the Caliph initiated several public welfare schemes. Many embankments were built to protect the houses in Medina, and a dam was constructed to divert the floodwaters from the Prophet's mosque. Projects were started to supply clean drinking water, for which wells were built and deepened, including the famous wells of Arish and Uthman, formerly known as Bir Ruma. Several irrigation canals were built in Iraq, Persia, and Egypt that helped increase the agricultural yield. This also improved water supply in Mecca as well as to Kufa and Basra. Lands were purchased to develop stables and state pastures for keeping and grazing of war horses and camels. As these pastures got enlarged, he ordered to reserve them for the state-owned war animals only and forbade any casual tribal grazing. Several guest houses and inns were built for the service of travelers, messengers, and poor pilgrims. First international port was built at Jeddah in 647 AD for the movement of pilgrims and supply of grains. The compounds of the Haramain, the sacred mosque in Mecca and the Prophet's mosque in Medina, were extended in order to accommodate the growing number of pilgrims. The whole mosque was rebuilt with stones and bricks on its original foundation. Stones were decorated by various patterns and engraving, and the pillars were made of stones with holes. They were strengthened with iron and lead, though many companions disliked such decorative changes in the original structure of the mosque. Moreover, about 5,000 new mosques were also constructed in several cities. He also renovated Masjid-i-Quba. As the size of the Muslim empire increased tremendously, new provinces were created and size of the previous provinces was enlarged. The Caliph changed the policy of the previous two caliphs towards the provincial governors. He lifted the ban on the sale of lands and the purchase of agricultural lands in the conquered territories. Caliph Umar, R.A., had put a ban on such sale and purchase. Hazrat Uthman, R.A., also permitted people to draw loans from the public treasury/Bait al-Mal. He also allowed his governors to amass funds so that they could spend them on the public welfare projects in their provinces. Hazrat Umar had been strict towards the Muhajirin and kept a check on their movement and acquisition of lands. Hazrat Uthman lifted such restrictions on them. They were granted freedom to move in the conquered territories. Hazrat Uthman is credited with the introduction of naval force in the history of Islam. Hazrat Muawiyah, Amr bin al-As, Abu Qays, and Abdullah bin Abi Sarah were among the first naval commanders who inflicted defeats on the Roman naval force in the Mediterranean Sea. B. Hazrat Uthman's greatest achievement was the development of a regular naval force. The Muslim navy during his caliphate played a key role in defending the expanding Muslim empire. Without a navy, the Arabian Peninsula and the neighboring territories conquered during the caliphate of Hazrat Abu Bakr and Hazrat Umar were vulnerable to a possible and powerful naval attack by the Romans. Thus, all the conquered areas were safeguarded for centuries. The earliest naval commanders, Hazrat Muawiyah, Abu Qays, and Ibn Abi Sarah, inflicted decisive defeats on the Roman forces and captured strategic islands of Cyprus, Crete, Rhodes, and some parts of Sicily. Due to these victories, in future Islam would be introduced to many parts of southern Europe. Muslim rule over Spain was also founded by a commander who, like Hazrat Uthman, belonged to Banu Umayyah. 4a. Write a descriptive account of the Battle of Siffin and the arbitration that followed it. 10b. What in your opinion was the most serious outcome of the arbitration? Give reasons to support your answer. 4. A. After winning the Battle of the Camel, Hazrat Ali decided to deal with Muawiyah. In May 657 AD/Muharram 37 AH, he raised an army of around 80,000 troops in Kufa that he had made the new capital. He marched towards Damascus with his army against Muawiyah's army of 120,000. The two armies camped against each other in the plain of Siffin, near the Euphrates. Many weeks were spent in attempting to reach a peaceful settlement, but in vain. Hazrat Ali offered Muawiyah to settle the dispute through single combat instead of involving thousands of innocent Muslims in the possible fight, but Muawiyah refused. After failed negotiations in the sacred month of Muharram, fierce fighting erupted in July 657/8. Safar 37 AH. Ali led his army from the center, surrounded by his troops from Medina. The troops from Kufa formed one wing while those from Basra, the other wing. A full-scale war continued for 3 days and nights. On the morning of fourth day, there were huge losses on both sides. However, soon, Hazrat Ali's army began to dominate. Seeing this, Muawiyah's soldiers tied the pages of the Quran at the heads of their lances. They cried, "Let the word of God decide between us and you. Who will defend the border towns of Syria if we are slain, and who will protect the people of Iraq if you are gone? Let the book of God judge between you and us." The battle stopped despite Hazrat Ali's command to his army to continue, as he knew it was only a trick of Muawiyah. Finally, the two armies agreed to set up a court of arbitration, which was scheduled to meet in February 658 AD. Hazrat Ali was forced to choose Hazrat Abu Musa Ash'ari against his will. He argued that Abu Musa was neutral and was not among his supporters. Therefore, he wanted Ibn Abbas to be his arbitrator, but seeing the pressure by his troops, he gave in and accepted Abu Musa as his arbitrator. Muawiyah nominated Hazrat Amr bin al-As, an astute commander, a heroic figure, and a respected governor as his arbitrator. More importantly, he was a staunch supporter of Muawiyah. Details of the arbitration were cleverly drafted by Hazrat Amr bin al-As 2 days after the Battle of Siffin, and according to it, both parties agreed to bind themselves by God's word. This proved a disaster for Hazrat Ali, as his troops had to return instead of fighting against the defiant Syrian governor, Muawiyah. They had come to Siffin under the commander of the faithful, the Caliph, who they thought was fighting for a righteous cause. However, the unexpected truce greatly disappointed them, as now they were considered as a faction in a civil war. The radical supporters of Hazrat Ali from Kufa left his army and joined like-minded troops from Basra. These troops came to be known as Kharijites. Despite all this, Hazrat Abu Musa Ash'ari and Ammar bin al-As met in January 658 AD at Damatul Jandal, located between Kufa and Damascus, as arbitrators of Hazrat Ali and Muawiyah, respectively. It was agreed between the two arbitrators that both Hazrat Ali and Hazrat Muawiyah should be deposed. Hazrat Abu Musa accordingly announced that he and Hazrat Ammar bin al-As agreed that both the Caliph and Muawiyah should step down. However, Hazrat Ammar unfortunately tempered with the stance and said that Hazrat Ali should leave the seat of caliphate, but Muawiyah should retain his post as the governor. Thus the arbitration compounded the situation instead of reaching a solution. This development further angered the Kharijites, whom Hazrat Ali had pacified with much effort. They parted their ways with the Caliph and established themselves as a distinct community at Narwan. The gradually weakening position of Hazrat Ali as Caliph was the most serious outcome of the arbitration. He not only lost the support of many troops from his capital Kufa and Basra, but also incurred their fierce opposition. They organized themselves as a separate community with fanatic views at Narwan. Thus, Hazrat Ali had to face two fronts of opposition, Hazrat Muawiyah and the Kharijites. Remaining years of his caliphate, therefore, could not see any expansion of the mighty Muslim empire. Instead, his control over various provinces was gradually lost. With the loss of Egypt to Muawiyah, the Caliph also lost his favorite stepson, Hazrat Muhammad bin Abu Bakr. Finally, the machination of Muawiyah coupled with the growing opposition by the Kharijites led to the tragic martyrdom of Hazrat Ali. With that, the Muslim world got permanently divided into two major religious sects. 5a. Write about the rituals that take place on the first 3 days of the annual pilgrimage, Hajj. 10. B. In your opinion, should Hajj be performed as many times as possible in a Muslim's life? Give reasons for your answer. 4. A. There are 5 days of Hajj, but most of the rituals are complete during the first 3 days, 8th, 9th, and 10th of Dhul al-Hajj. Pilgrims make intention for Hajj and adopt Ihram to become Muhrim on 8th Dhul al-Hajj or earlier before reaching the Miqat, the prescribed boundary around the Haram of Mecca. A Muhrim should start reciting Talbiyah loudly immediately after putting on Ihram. Once they reach the sacred mosque, they perform Tawaf-i-Qudum of the Kaaba. It is a Sunnah/Masnoon type of Tawaf. After the Tawaf, the Sa'i is performed. It comprises 7 walks between Safa and Marwa hills in commemoration of Hazrat Hajar/Hajira's running between the 2 hills in search of water for her thirsty son, Hazrat Ismail. If Sa'i is not performed on 8th, it may be performed after Tawaf-i-Ziyara on 10th/11th or 12th Dhul al-Hajj. Pilgrims then go to Mina, where they offer Zuhr, Asr, Maghrib, and Isha of 8th and Far prayer of 9th Dhul al-Hajj. They shorten their Zuhr, Asr, and Isha prayers without combining them. On 9th Dhul al-Hajj, they reach Arafah/Arafat, the plain just beyond the Miqat. They observe the Waqf or stay there from Zuhr till Maghrib. This is the most important observance of Hajj, as the Prophet declared, Hajj means staying at Arafat. If this farz act is missed, the whole Hajj gets void. Pilgrims beg mercy of God and forgiveness of their sins in the humblest possible way. They listen to the sermon delivered by the Imam that reminds them of the Prophet's farewell sermon he delivered from the Mount of Mercy in the same plain in 10 AH. They perform Zurain by shortening Zuhr and Asr prayer and combining them. They leave Arafat at Maghrib for Muzdalifah, a plain between Mina and Arafat. Here they offer Maghribain, combining Maghrib with Isha prayer and shortening Isha by half. They spend the night between 9th and 10th of Dhul al-Hajj in the plain of Muzdalifah. They collect 49 or more pebbles for Rami and leave for Mina after Far prayer of 10th Dhul al-Hajj. This is the busiest day for the pilgrims and is called the day of Eid al-Adha and also called Yom al-Adiyah or Yom al-Nar/Day of Sacrifice. Pilgrims are exempt from any Eid prayer that is offered in the rest of the Muslim world. In Mina, first they observe the ritual of Rami by pelting the grand pillar of Satan, Jamar-i-Aqaba, with 7 pebbles one by one. The ritual is started by reciting this invocation, Bismillah Allahu Akbar. Rami is done in commemoration of Prophet Ibrahim's rejection of devil who had tried to keep him from obeying the command of God. After Rami, the pilgrims stop reciting Talbiyah. Those performing Hajj Ifrad get their heads shaven/halak or hair shortened/khazar, as sacrifice is not obligatory for them. The next ritual is sacrifice. Pilgrims performing Hajj Tamatu and Hajj Qiran are required to sacrifice a sacrificial animal, cow, goat, sheep, or camel. This observance reminds the pilgrims of the spirit of sacrifice demonstrated by Hazrat Ibrahim. He was about to sacrifice his son, Hazrat Ismail, following the divine command when God miraculously replaced Hazrat Ismail by a lamb. After performing sacrifice, most of the restrictions of Ihram are relaxed except for intimate husband-wife relations. The Karen and Mutamati pilgrims abandon Ihram and are required to do halak/shaving head or khazar/shortening hair. Men prefer halak, but they're allowed khazar, too, though it has a lesser reward. Women are required to shorten their hair by only a little length. Then they proceed to Makkah to perform the last obligatory/Farz act of Hajj, Tawaf-i-Ziyara or Tawaf-i-Ifada by circling around the Kaaba 7 times. Finally, they perform Sa'i/Sa'i by making a walk between the Safa and Marwa hills 7 times. If they cannot perform Tawaf and Sa'i on 10th, they may do the same either on 11th or 12th Dhul al-Hajj. It should be remembered that Sa'i is performed during Hajj only once, either after Tawaf-i-Qudum on 8th or after Tawaf-i-Ziyara on 10th, or 11th or 12th, Dhul al-Hajj. On 11th Dhul al-Hajj, Rami of Jamar-i-Ula/Sugra, located near the Kaif Mosque, Wusta and Aqaba/Kubra is performed once. After Rami they raise hands to do Dua. Rami of the 3 Jamarat is repeated on 12th in the same order, but Dua is made after Rami of first 2 Jamarat. No Dua is needed after Rami of Jamar-i-Aqaba, and pilgrims quickly leave the place. B. Hajj is a pillar of Islam, but it is different from the other 4 pillars as it has been made obligatory once in a Muslim's lifetime. The Prophet performed Hajj once only in 10 AH. Thus a Muslim should follow the Sunnah of the Prophet with the intention of giving a chance to the fellow Muslims to perform Hajj. Such a Muslim may earn a reward of ceaseless charity/Sadaqah Jariyah by sponsoring the poor Muslims to fulfill this obligation who with frustration keep waiting all their life to visit the holy places. In this case, the pilgrim will keep invoking God's mercy for the one who bore all expenses. Well-off Muslims may spend the Hajj money for helping the poor and those afflicted by natural calamities such as the COVID-19 pandemic. God may grant much greater reward in return for this.